Ever heard the saying, work smarter, not harder? Well, that seems to be the motto in the world of AI, too. Today, we're diving into this article by Gwern. It's called Why Tool AIs Want to Be Agent AIs.
Catchy title, right?
It really is. And it gets to the heart of a question we've all probably wondered about. Like, what's the difference between, a basic AI tool and a truly intelligent agent?
Right. Is it just about processing power, or is there something more going on?
Exactly. And this article dives deep into that something more, exploring why agent AIs, these AIs capable of independent action and learning, are likely to kind of, well, take over.
In a way, yeah. But it's not some sci-fi takeover scenario. It's more about efficiency, intelligence, even evolution, you could say.
Okay, so before we get too far ahead, let's define our terms. What exactly are tool AIs and agent AIs?
So think of tool AIs like specialized gadgets in a toolbox.
Yeah.
Super powerful for specific tasks, but they lack, the initiative to act on their own.
Right, like a calculator, maybe?
Perfect example. Or here's another one, Google Maps. It can suggest the fastest route, but you're the one behind the wheel making the turns.
So a tool AI gives advice, but it doesn't actually do anything?
Yeah. An agent AI, on the other hand, that's the one actually taking the wheel. It learns from experience, sets goals, and then bam, takes steps to achieve them.
So like a self-driving car.
Exactly. That's agent AI in action, navigating traffic, making decisions in real time. And this article dives into why that kind of AI is, well, probably going to be the dominant force in the future.
Dominant in what way? Like just economically, or are we talking something bigger here?
Both, actually. The article argues that agent AIs have this serious edge, not just because they can do things, but because of how they learn and evolve. It's like they're built to get smarter faster.
Okay, now that's where it gets really interesting. So are you saying that agent AIs are inherently more intelligent, like even compared to the most powerful tool AI?
It's not just about raw power. It's about how they approach learning, how they interact with the world. The author calls it agentiness, this ability to make choices about their own learning process.
Agentiness, huh? So like they're not just passively absorbing information, they're actually deciding how to learn.
Exactly. They can prioritize certain types of data, focus on specific problems, even choose how much effort to put into different tasks. It's like they have their own learning strategy.
So in a way, they're becoming more like us.
In a way, yeah. And that's why even tool AIs, they can benefit from a little bit of this agentiness. The author calls these actions for intelligence, little things an AI can do to become a more effective learner.
Okay, I'm hooked. Can you give us some concrete examples of these actions for intelligence? Like, how does this actually play out in the real world?
Sure. Think about attention mechanisms. You know how a student might focus on the most important parts of a textbook instead of reading every single word?
Yeah, like highlighting key passages or whatever.
Exactly. That's attention in action. And AIs can do this too. It's already being used in things like image recognition and language translation.
So the AI is basically learning how to learn more effectively. But isn't that still a form of programming? Like, we're telling it how to focus, right?
That's a great point. And that's where the line between tool AIs and agent AIs can get a little, fuzzy. Even when we program specific learning mechanisms, the AI is still making choices within those boundaries. It's like giving someone a map and a compass, right? You provide the tools, but they choose the path.
I see. So even those small choices, they can make a big difference in how the AI learns and solves problems.
Huge difference. And this all ties into another key concept from the article, the economic advantage of agent AIs. It all comes down to this idea called Amdahl's law, which basically says that optimizing only one part of a system has diminishing returns.
So like if you have a really fast car, but the driver is slow, the car's overall speed is still limited by the driver.
Precisely. The slowest part becomes the bottleneck, no matter how fast the other parts are. And the article argues that in many cases, that bottleneck is us, humans.
Whoa. That's a bit humbling, isn't it? So you're saying that the market, especially in fields where speed is critical, will naturally favor agent AIs because they remove that human bottleneck.
Exactly. And we see this happening already. Like in the financial sector, there was this incident, the Knight Capital debacle. They lost millions because human intervention was too slow.
So the machines were ready to go, but the humans were holding them back.
In a nutshell, yeah. And we see in other areas too, like the military. They're struggling to recruit enough pilots for drones.
Because it's easier to just let the drones fly themselves?
Well, yeah, and it's arguably more effective too. So the shift towards autonomous systems, it's not just about, some futuristic vision. It's happening now.
This is all really fascinating, but it also raises some pretty big question. Like, what does this mean for the future of work, for humanity in general?
Big questions indeed. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. We haven't even gotten into the really mind-bending stuff yet, like how agent AIs might actually be more intelligent than their tool AI counterparts.
Okay, now you've really got my attention. So stay tuned, listeners, because when we come back, we're going to dive deep into the intelligence advantage of agent AIs and explore why, according to this article, you shouldn't be a tool. Okay, so we just finished talking about how agent AIs might be kind of like the economic heavyweights of the future, right? Outpacing us humans in terms of pure efficiency and speed. But now we're getting into, well, the more philosophical stuff. Like, could agent AIs actually be smarter?
It's a question that kind of forces us to rethink what we even mean by intelligence.
Yeah.
We tend to think of it as raw processing power, like how many calculations a computer can make per second.
Yeah, like those supercomputers that can crunch numbers faster than, well, anyone can even
Yeah.
imagine.
But this article, it suggests that intelligence might be less about that kind of brute force and more about, well, decision making,
Hmm.
like making the right choices at the right time.
Okay, now that's interesting, but how does that apply to AI? I mean, aren't a lot of AI tasks kind of passive, like just processing data?
Even in those seemingly passive tasks, there are decisions happening, behind the scenes. Like take image classification, right?
Hmm.
An AI has to decide which features of an image are most important, how long to spend analyzing it, even how confident it should be in its classification.
I guess I never really thought about it that way. So you're saying that agent AIs are just naturally better at that kind of decision making?
Yeah, I think so. It's kind of baked into their design.
Yeah.
They have this inherent understanding of the value of information and the impact of choices.
So it's not just about blindly processing everything they're given. It's about like being strategic, asking, okay, what information do I really need? What's the best way to get it? And how do I use it to actually achieve my goal?
That's it. They're not just number crunching machines. They're making judgments, weighing options, adapting their approach. And this all leads to, well, two key concepts the article dives into: the value of data and this thing called the curse of dimensionality.
Ooh, curse of dimensionality. That sounds ominous. But let's start with the data thing first. I mean, it seems obvious that not all data is created equal, but like, how does that relate to this whole agent AI advantage?
Well, think about it. A tool AI, it might be trained on like a massive data set, right? But if a lot of that data is irrelevant or redundant, it's not actually going to make the AI smarter. It's like trying to learn a new skill by reading every single book on the subject, even the outdated ones, the irrelevant ones, the ones that just repeat the same information over and over again. You'd be overwhelmed.
Yeah, you'd probably just end up confused and frustrated.
Exactly. An agent AI, though, can be way more selective. It can focus on the most valuable experiences, the data that will actually help it learn and improve.
So it's like instead of just passively absorbing everything, it's actively seeking out the most relevant information.
Exactly. It's like a student who, instead of just reading every page of a textbook, figures out which chapters are most important, focuses on the challenging problems, maybe even goes out and finds additional resources. That's how agent AIs approach learning.
Okay, I'm starting to get it. So it's not just about the quantity of data, it's about the quality and relevance. Now, what about that curse of dimensionality thing?
So imagine you're searching for a needle in a haystack, right?
Hmm.
But the haystack keeps getting bigger and bigger, and the needle stays the same size. That's kind of what happens with complex problems. As the complexity grows, the number of possible solutions, it just explodes. It becomes this vast, well, almost unimaginable space of possibilities.
So the more complex the problem, the harder it is to find the solution.
Exactly. And that's the curse of dimensionality. Tool AIs, they can get kind of lost in that vastness. They're designed to analyze everything. But sometimes that can be a disadvantage.
Because they're not focusing on the right things.
Yeah, they might be spending a ton of time and energy analyzing stuff that's ultimately irrelevant to the solution. Agent AIs, on the other hand, they're built to navigate that complexity. They don't try to analyze every single piece of hay. They develop strategies to zero in on the areas where the needle is most likely to be.
It's like instead of sifting through every strand of hay, they're using a metal detector to find the needle.
Perfect analogy. And we see this play out in the real world, too. Like, remember AlphaGo, the AI that mastered the game of Go?
Yeah, the one that beat the world champion.
Right. The
Mm.
version that was just trained on human games. It kind of hit a ceiling. It could only get so good.
But then they let it play against itself, and that's when it really took off.
Exactly. Because it was able to explore the game in a more, um, autonomous way. It wasn't limited by human knowledge anymore. It was able to discover entirely new strategies, strategies that no human had ever thought of.
That's kind of mind-blowing, isn't it?
It really is.
Yeah.
And the article argues that this principle applies to all sorts of problems, not just games, like recognizing images, designing complex systems, even, coming up with new scientific theories.
So by giving an AI the ability to make decisions, to be an agent in its own right, we're essentially like unlocking its full potential.
Yeah, I think so. It's not about creating like a rogue machine. It's about enabling a level of intelligence that wouldn't be possible with a purely passive tool.
So when the article says why you shouldn't be a tool, it's not literally saying we should all become robots. It's more about recognizing the power of agency.
Right. And that brings us to, maybe the most important question of all. If agent AIs are going to be the dominant force in problem solving and decision making, where does that leave us humans?
Yeah, that's a question I've been wondering about this whole time. Like, are we destined to become obsolete? Or is there a way for us to, to thrive in this new world? So we've talked about tool AIs, agent AIs, this whole idea of agentiness, and yeah, even the curse of dimensionality. It's a lot to take in.
Definitely a lot to unpack. But I think it all comes back to this core question, right? Like, what does it even mean to be human in a world that's, well, increasingly shaped by intelligent machines?
Especially when the article we've been discussing, why tool AIs want to be agent AIs, seems to, suggest that being a tool might not be the winning strategy.
Yeah, it's a thought-provoking idea, isn't it? But I think it's less about humans literally becoming, hammers and screwdrivers, and more about recognizing that power of agency, both in AI and in ourselves.
So it's not about like rejecting technology or trying to compete with machines on their own terms.
Right, exactly. It's about figuring out how to work with them, how to leverage our unique human strengths in this new landscape.
Because, I mean, let's face it, agent AIs, they're going to be incredibly powerful, right? They can analyze massive data sets. They can run complex simulations. They can explore solutions that we can't even begin to comprehend.
It's true. And think about the potential, right? Like agent AIs could help us solve some of the biggest problems we're facing.
Climate change, maybe? Or like finding cures for diseases.
Exactly. Things that have stumped us for decades. But those powerful AIs, they still need direction. They need goals, they need values, they need a sense of purpose that's aligned with human well-being.
And that's where we come in.
Exactly. That's where our agency comes in. We're the ones who can define the problems, who can set the ethical boundaries, who can make sure that AI is used to benefit humanity, not harm it.
So instead of seeing AI as a threat, we can see it as this incredibly powerful tool, right? A tool that we need to learn to wield effectively.
I like that. A powerful tool. And part of that learning process, it involves understanding our own strengths, our own limitations.
So what are our strengths? Like what can humans do that AIs, even these super intelligent agent AIs can't?
Well, I think we're inherently good at things like creativity, empathy, critical thinking, understanding complex social dynamics. These are all areas where AI, it still struggles.
So maybe the future isn't about humans versus AI, but rather a collaboration, like a partnership where we leverage the strengths of both.
I think so. We provide the vision, the guidance, the values, and AI provides the computational horsepower, the problem-solving skills. It's a team effort.
I like the sound of that. A team effort. Well, we've covered a lot of ground in this deep dive. It's been quite a journey.
It has, from the technical nitty-gritty of AI architecture to some pretty deep philosophical questions about intelligence, agency, and what it means to be human.
And it all started with this one article, Why Tool AIs Want to Be Agent AIs. It's really made me think about the future, about the role of technology, about about my own role in all of this.
Me too. And I think that's the power of ideas, right? They can challenge our assumptions. They can spark our imagination. They can help us see the world in new ways.
So listeners, you've heard the arguments, you've explored the potential, both the benefits and the challenges, and you've gotten a glimpse of a future where humans and intelligent machines could work together to create something truly amazing.
The question is, what role will you play in shaping that future? Will you embrace the power of your own agency, or Will you become a tool in someone else's vision? It's a choice we all have to make.
Powerful stuff. Really makes you think. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible.